Steelers.
Pittsburgh do this all the time. I've been playing them for 13 years. When you avoid the middle, they go into the middle. It's never changed.
I'm in fear for my life from the long arm of the law.
And welcome back to the 16th episode of the Steel City Sermon presented by Blitzalytics.com. I am your host, Mr. Roy Countryman. It is a pleasure to be back here with everyone that's listening to this Steelers podcast, video podcast, whatever you call it. By myself today. Like I said, last week we had a special guest, Bo McCauley, but I'm back here one-on-one with myself, so I hope you all will enjoy this episode. We're going to go ahead and jump right into it in the prelude portion of this week's episode, and we're going to get the thoughts on the win, the impressive victory against the Baltimore Ravens. The first half was a little bit nail-biting. Second half was a little bit more adjustment-wise, what we were expecting to see. Just to be 7-0 for the first time in a long time, really setting ourselves up well for this stretch run to go through the 2020 season. Hopefully we don't have no issues with a pandemic and anything like that. So I want to start off by giving kudos to a guy that started off the week, after this game, kind of maybe scratching his head what's going to be going on with his role going forward. But Robert Spillane, if we didn't have you, we wouldn't have anybody. We wouldn't have started off the game with the momentum we did with that pick six and the way it came through. So Robert Spillane, good on you, buddy, for coming up with that pick six, and you were all over the place with 11 tackles. 10 of them were solo, a tackle for loss, 2 passes defensed, an interception that was returned for a touchdown, and you were in on that last play with the fumble on L-Jack on down by the goal line on the 4th down. So definitely good stuff there. Big time stepping up in that division rivalry game with the Baltimore Ravens. That's just a different type of attitude you got to bring in those games. You know you're going to be beat up afterwards. You just got to, put both your chin straps tight and go after it. So good on you guys for coming up with that victory. But Robert Spillane, big time tip of the cap to you. Big Ben as well. I'm being impressed by him weekly. He still hasn't put together an entire game's worth of work to just be a complete product out there. He's kind of looked rusty either first half or second half, or maybe got out of rhythm. But when he got into the no huddle and started attacking, I know a lot of people are making some issues with the ad-libbing and drawing plays up in the sand. I think that was just kind of more tongue-in-cheek sort of talk than it was word for word and verbatim what's going to be happening with him. When he's in them situations, I think him and Fiechner have a good relationship to where they just rely upon each other, they trust each other, and like he said before, that he just kind of chimes in on the play calling of what the down and distance is, just kind of give Ben some reminder feelers out there. So it's not that big a deal. He doesn't have that big of an ego, but Big Ben, he took over in the second half of the game. He kept the ball out of harm's way, which in those matchups seems like it's always what's going to be the difference is that usually is a turnover. Early in the game, it was very sloppy. We had turnovers on both sides with that pick six. We had a fumble by Claypool. So it was nice to see him get back to Steeler football in the second half. Eric Ebron is another guy. He was brought in free agency. We all know his pass-catching prowess, the athleticism. We're using him to his full advantage. He's right in line with those prime years with Indianapolis when he was putting up touchdowns and putting up big yardage games with Andrew Luck. This is the type of production you're going to get out of him when you have a high-quality caliber quarterback. Not saying he's going to be able to match his receiving touchdowns output from that season, because I believe it was 15 in that season, but he might hit double digits before the end here. But what's been more impressive to me is his willingness to come in the blocking department. I'm not saying he's ever going to be a world beater. He's not going to be Heath Miller. But he's been more than adequate getting out in front and getting into the second-level blocks. and just getting enough of a defender to let the running back either cut off of him or blow by him. So Eric Ebron, big tip of the cap to you, buddy. You put in a full day's work in your first matchup of the Baltimore Ravens in that divisional matchup. So it was interesting. Juju Smith-Schuster, this guy, he's not getting enough credit. I know the week before he's getting demolished for, being the guy on the other end of the target spectrum for his, three defenders draped all over him. Ben was trying to put the ball on him. But he just keeps doing the dirty work, blocking outside, getting downfield, picking up first downs, moving the chains. That's really what his role is in this offense. It's not saying that's what his skill set can only be, but that's what they need him to be right now, and he's not complaining. So this just seems like a renaissance to me. Ben's really he's really finding his stride with some of these targets. It almost feels like early in his career when he had Plexico Burress, and he was able to throw down the field to him and Hines Ward to be your chain mover type guy and just be your reliable target. And then you had Heath Miller there. Now you have Eric Ebron. These targets are so impressive. We don't need one guy to be the overbearing and boisterous person, and they're so selfless. That's what I love about this team. Now let's get to the defensive side of the ball. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for our defense, I don't think we would have came out. It was a very impressive performance. I know everybody's kind of panicking a little bit with the run yards we put up. Listen, guys, Steeler Nation, that was the number one rush offense in the NFL. They're going to get their yards at some point. Yes, J.K. Dobbins was able to outrun Robert Spillane on an outside zone run. I get it. I understand. He doesn't have the straight line speed or the lateral agility that Devin Bush does. But guess what? Not a lot of people do in the NFL. He's way more adequate and way more equipped to be able to take charge in that linebacker room and make the plays that he can. And we're going to talk about the guy we just brought in too to help supplement him if he needs it. But that defense and the way they were able to crash down, especially our outside linebackers, I got to give them a big tip of the cap. Bud Dupree didn't put up any sack totals, especially with Ronnie Stanley going down. That was kind of disappointing. But their ability to contain Lamar Jackson within the confines of the pocket and make him run downhill into the center and the guard tandems while he had Cam Hayward and Tuitt pushing the line, that was really the difference in the game. They really kept containing him very well, and if not, when he was pulling the RPO type game, they were hitting him, and those hits take a toll by the fourth quarter. I know he had a long run called back on the one drive, but it was very impressive with their ability to keep him in line and keep him in check. So another ho-hum day, let's put it, for TJ Watt. 5 tackles, 3 solo. With another sack, he's at 6.5 now. And he had 5 quarterback hits. A lot of them were either on a pressure or on those RPOs as I was talking. And he was one of the main reasons coming off at his position and really laying some big-time hits on L-Jack. So TJ Watt, just another ho-hum performance, living in the backfield. I'd be surprised. I'm surprised he's not in double-digit sacks already. But, of course, he's getting the James Harrison treatment, getting held on every down, and the refs are simply just not throwing the flags. But if you watch a game consistently, that's the only way they're able to combat him, especially when Mr. DJ Fluker came into the game. He was having himself some bedwetting problems with TJ Watt coming at him. So another guy I want to give a tip of the cap to is Alex Highsmith. This is a rookie, guys, that I don't know what the situation is going to be with Bud Dupree after the season. I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen him selected in the 3rd round this past year, to see him maybe take that role on. He is learning on the fly. He takes coaching very well. He's a high-quality athlete. He's a great pass rusher. But it was his ability to drop out in this game and come up with a huge interception, which was a very similar play while he was in the first half, that he didn't simply get enough depth when he dropped out in coverage. And he was able to make that adjustment with the coaching staff at halftime to say, hey, when it's your turn to drop, don't just drop so short. Get back some good depth. Keep your eye on the ball and the quarterback, and you might be able to make a play. And bam, he was the one that came up with that interception in the second half. So big time work for him. And he's been getting pressure. So this guy might be your long-term answer if we're not able to come to that contract extension with Bud Dupree, because it is going to be some hard choices after the season. I think we all know that. I think that's why we should enjoy this run while we have it. We have the 7-0 run as we're talking now. Let's enjoy it. Let's hopefully win this Super Bowl, enjoy the players we have, and hopefully we can re-sign them, the majority of them. But we have a lot of younger guys here that are coming up. So that's a guy that's really, the arrow is pointing up on him, and I'm very intrigued with him. Another guy that kind of had an uneven performance but came to work late, Isaiah Buggs. By all accounts, Jim Wexell, who has his own website, and I write for him at times at 24/7 Sports. Go check it out and subscribe if you have yet. But he has great in-depth reports throughout training camp. He was reporting about Isaiah Buggs and the way he was conditioned and the way he wasn't really thrilling the coaching staff. First half, he looked like that guy. Second half came out, he looked like he got the fire lit underneath of him, and he made that great play on 4th down to stuff L-Jack and force the fumble. He was able to get right there on him. What was so impressive is he locked onto the center and read the play like a running back. He was almost reading the rushing lane. He grabbed the hold of the center, and he was literally spying him with the eye which way he was going to shed the center because he got a hold of him so quick off the line of scrimmage. So Isaiah Buggs, he is a big, powerful defensive lineman. He helped win the national championship, and Carl Dunbar knows him well. If they can get him motivated, he did play well in the second half. They're going to need him here for a week or two, whatever it may be that Tyson Alu is out, who's been playing exceptional ball at a Pro Bowl type level. This guy we're going to need, Isaiah Buggs. He's going to be on the nose this week in between Tuitt and Hayward, who in their own right are absolute pillars of dominance on here. And we're going to get to Stephon Tuitt here in a little bit. But Isaiah Buggs, I just had to throw you some tip of the cap there because you came up and you showed up in the big plays. So good on you. And finally, player-wise, Minkah Fitzpatrick. He came up with a forced fumble there in that last play. And he also came up whenever on the last play of the entire game, broke on the ball. If he would have ran into the receiver, he probably would have came up with an interception. He's just his pursuit angles, his instincts are always there. It was impressive to see him just play that single high safety and have some, not be left out to dry. And you can see the skill set is still there, that we don't have to worry if we can get into a matchup with all of our defensive backs healthy and not just be, zero blitzing all the time. If he has some time to pick and choose which matchups he want to be spying on, he's still got the ball skills to make a difference. And enjoy it, Steeler Nation. Like I said, this was a big win. I did pick the Steelers last week, but I still was nervous. I'll be the first Steeler fan to say I was quite nervous come game day with the matchups that we were seeing. So good on them, and a huge tip of the cap to our coaching staff. Mike Tomlin, not only you, Randy Fichtner, we have Matt Canada, the defensive coach, Keith Butler, who also coaches the outside linebackers and the way they're able to pressure, Jerry Olavaski, the inside linebackers, and Terrell Austin, who's been a huge addition with this secondary. And to see just the way they can prepare and get forward there, good on them, guys, especially for being willing to adjust at halftime. Come out and figure out a way to shut down or limit the exposure on rushing downs. You've seen a unique package that was deployed in the second half with really 2 down linemen and 5 linebackers, with 3 of them being the outside linebackers and Dupree, Highsmith, and Watt, to try to make up for some of that ability to get in quickly inside. So just really nice play calling, nice creativity. It's nice to see. Sometimes it feels like our coaching staff can be stagnant at time and be kind of stuck in their ways when it comes to adjusting, but it was absolutely needed there, and that was the reason why we were able to win that game, really. So good on them. It's impressive going forward, and I can't wait to get into this week's matchup. But we have a couple more things here to jump into. In the prelude portion, we were talking about the pillars of dominance, Cam Hayward. It was kind of a little uneasy to see him go off. By all accounts, it's good news. It was just a strained quad. He's looking like he's going to be able to play this week in Week 9. But the other gentleman, Stephon Tuitt, has been absolutely dominant this year. This is the same type player we seen before he got injured last year. And he was actually named the Defensive Player of the Week for Week 8. So good on you, Stephon, man. You put up the stats. He had 9 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks in that matchup, consistently pushing back right into L-Jack's lap. he's been absolutely and utterly dominant, and it's a pleasure to see with all the rest of the talent we have on this defense, him coming to work with Cam Hayward. When them two are right, it makes it real fun for this defense, even when Alu fell out there. So good on you, buddy. It's big time. Another congratulations here, and that is none other than Mike Tomlin. With a victory against the Ravens, he has 140 now. He passes his mentor and friend, Tony Dungy, that helped bring him into the NFL here. For minority coaches, he is the all-time winningest coach. He is a great, great man by all accounts. I know he runs a thing and is one of the main contributors on what's called Man Up Pittsburgh, bringing in men to talk in a Christian setting about what they need to do as men in the community, and also fathers and the way in a family. So off the field, he's a great man. On the field, he's a leader of men, allows people to use their voice and speak up. Good on you, Mike Tomlin. Big time fan here. I loved it when we hired you back when we did over, Russ Grimm and Wiz and Hunt there. But good time stuff, big time stuff, and big things in store. Hopefully we get you another Super Bowl trophy here. So good job, Mike Tomlin, on there. I do want to talk just briefly here. I did forget to put it down the scroll bar here. Avery Williamson, we went out and traded for him. We traded basically, it reminded me a lot of the Vance McDonald deal. We traded a late round pick in 2022, which I loved. It wasn't even this year's draft pick in 2021. It was 2022. We flipped a fifth round pick in 2022 to the Jets for a seventh rounder back in 2022 and Avery Williamson. The first thing I look at this when it comes to trade details, being that it's 2022, I see and anticipate them losing a lot of players here in free agency. I see them maybe only being able to recap and re-sign maybe 3 or 4 players at most in this large free agency class, and they're kind of prepping for that with adding more picks. But that we're also anticipating some compensatory picks back as well. So they might be anticipating losing a player that's worthy of a 5th round pick or a 4th round pick, and kind of limiting that value that we give away, plus getting a 7th rounder in return. Avery Williamson, also, his contract was very minimal. He's coming off a torn ACL off of a very, very idiotic decision the year before when Adam Gase left him in late in the last preseason game. He tore his ACL on a terrible play. But when he's been on the field, he's been a very impressive performer. Whether it's been in pass defense, he's very instinctual, and he's very good about being assignment sound to where he needs to be. Very measured in his drops. And as a tackler, he's very sure. He's good at taking good pursuit angles. He understands how to line his players up on defense, because he actually ran the Dick LeBeau defense not very long ago in Tennessee. He has some experience, and Tomlin already spoke, and Keith Butler said that that's somewhat a similar system for play calling and checks and whatnot before the snap. So this guy might get a chance to play this week. He might not, due to the protocols set forth to where he has to take 5 consecutive days. We'll see. I'm not sure if they're going to let him out there without a lot of practice snaps with his teammates. He really only knew a few guys. He went to Kentucky the same time as Bud Dupree, so he knows a few guys on this team. He said he got a text from Cam Hayward. He has three years of over 100 tackles in the league, so he has production. I'm not sure he's back to 100% with his leg. He said he did on a radio appearance here in Pittsburgh at 93.7 The Fan, but we'll see going forward. But they kind of came out already and said they're anticipating him being nothing more than depth at this point. I'm not sure you would go out and make a trade just for depth. I'm glad they did, because outside of Spillane, Marcus Allen, I'm not sure if he'd be able to buoy the storm if Spillane got hurt. So it's nice to have a starting caliber player in your court here if Spillane would start to struggle, or if that shoulder injury, whenever he took on Derrick Henry, would flare back up. I have a great article right up, guys, at 24/7 Sports. As I said, Jim Wexel is the curator over there and the producer of that site. So go out and check it out. It's actually called The Tale of the Tape. The link is in the description right here. Go click on it and subscribe. It is a great article comparing and contrasting college experience, NFL experience and production, their age, contract, the motivational factors, and just their skill set. So go check that out. I don't want to speak too much on Avery Williamson. I'm glad we got him basically for peanuts on the dollar here. It's really a great addition, and we'll see going forward. Jay, my cousin Jay, yeah, he'll probably contribute on special teams. I'm guessing probably in week 10 more than anything. I'm not so sure we're going to see him in week 9. I could be mistaken because he hasn't been able to practice this week due to the protocols. But if he does step into the starting role in, say, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, if Spillane would struggle, that just makes our special teams even better because Spillane was one of our standouts on special teams. So, and he hasn't been able to play a lot of snaps there, being that he is now in the base defense and one of our main play callers. And that's another thing you got to take into effect is the play calling duties. Vince Williams does have the experience, but you want a guy in Spillane that's been doing it. They're starting to find the rhythm with him now that Bush is out. It's just going to be an interesting dynamic. I'm glad they went out and got a move to just secure themselves. I would have liked to maybe seen a couple other moves, but I always like swinging for the fences if you get a chance. So, but good job on them. Another shrewd move by Kevin Colbert, basically for nothing. And it's not even for a pick next year in 2021. It's 2022. So good on him. Trading future capital, which you're probably going to replace with a comp pick. Not a lot of cap that you can roll over. So it's good stuff either way around. And he's rocking the James Ferrier 51. So I can't complain there. I love me some James Potsy Ferrier working there. So that's all I have, guys, for the prelude portion here. We're going to go ahead. We're going to jump right into the sermons portion of the show here. I'm going to go over who I picked both in the preseason superlatives here, and then we're going to dive right into who is going to be my midseason selection here with the way they've been playing. I'm going to go ahead and dive right in here. I'm going to give you my preseason selection, maybe speak a little bit on them, and then I'll give you my award winner at the midseason point here. So the breakout player of the year, I had chose Zach Banner beforehand. And if it were not for a devastating knee injury, I believe he would have been wreaking havoc at the right tackle position. I was quite impressed with his performance early this season before he went out. I think he has a long-time future with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he loves Pittsburgh. I think he's really got his career back on track. I've been really impressed with Tuitt, and that's not a knock against Banner. I just really think that the front office was hoping to keep Okorafor in that swing tackle role to be the left tackle next year. And if he can be the left tackle next year, what he's been able to do at right tackle, and we're able to bring back Banner off this injury at maybe a cheaper price, it might be a blessing in disguise and maybe a longer-term deal here to reward the faithfulness in him and dropping the weight and becoming the player he is now. Our offense has a good future in store with Okorafor and Banner. I still think that he's in the future plans of this team, as well as Kevin Dotson. And you still have your two grizzled veterans, high-quality grizzled veterans, with a lot of merits on their docket with Pouncey and DeCastro there. So you have Matt Filer. It's up after the year. He might be one of them guys that has to be sacrificed due to the cap. You're not sure you're going to be able to bring him back because he's probably going to be getting a pretty good-sized deal. I would hate to see him go because he's also one of them guys that made himself who he is. But Zach Banner was my selection for breakout player, and I would have stuck by that if he wouldn't have got injured there. So, but my midseason winner, to update this due to Banner being out, is none other than Ray McLeod. This guy was a late addition. Like I said, if you go to check out 24/7 Sports, I did a write-up on who is Ray McLeod. Go check out that article. It's great content as well to get you familiar not only with on the field but off. This guy was a playmaker the whole way back at Clemson. He was just always more of a package sort player. And with Matt Canada's addition to this offense, he's been using that skill set and that big time ability with the burst and ability in the open field to make guys miss on end arounds in different packages. And he is averaging an NFL best 16.7 yards on punt returns. So now we're able to whisk away Deontay Johnson, who seems to always get nicked here and there, which, hopefully is not a long-term type thing. But we're able to keep him away from some pounding on punt returns and replace him with somebody that at this point might be better, statistically for the entirety of the team, with Johnson being able to focus purely as a receiver and McLeod be able to focus on special teams. He's also averaged 25.9 yards on kick returns, which is the 6th best mark in the NFL. So he is one of the main reasons why our special teams have been so improved at this point. And don't even forget that last week's game against the Baltimore Ravens, he played a season-high 22 snaps on the offense. Now, he's not going to get that many snaps every week, Steeler Nation, but you can see the coaching staff is getting more and more confidence in him. He had some fumble issues before. That seems to be away from here, knock on wood, that we don't have issues like that in the future. He's just been so dynamic in the open field. He looks like he's going to break one every time he touches the ball. It is just outstanding to have an actual return guy, and now a guy that we can throw out there for all kinds of, creativity on offense for certain packages, in addition to all our other playmakers. This guy has just been, he's been a real surprise, and that's why I wanted to throw him out there for breakout player of the midseason, Ray McCloud. Our comeback kid of the year, the preseason superlative, is going to be my midseason superlative for that winner, James Conner. I won't say he's had a great year. He's averaging, I believe it's 3.5 or 4.5 yards a carry. He's just been very solid. And after coming off another year injury, what seems like he always has an injury to take him out of some key matchups, he's been able to stay healthy. He's been able to be relied upon. We haven't seen Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland take up too many of his carries so far because of how well he's been in shape and been able to be durable here. So, James Conner, I'm giving it to you over Big Ben because I think Big Ben, this would be just low-hanging fruit at this point if we give it to him. I think Ben is in consideration for bigger and better superlatives here on the team and voting-wise. So we're going to give it to James Conner and reward him for that off-season work. So he's our guy here on Comeback Kid of the midseason. Our rising star, the preseason selection was for Stephon Tuitt. And I spoke about it earlier. He won Defensive Player of the Week. He is my midseason selection. And it's because he's tied for 4th in the NFL with 6 sacks. Plus, he's at 8 tackles for loss from his defensive end, defensive tackle position. Doesn't really matter. He plays all up and down the line of scrimmage. And he wreaks havoc. For the interior offensive linemen that go against the Steelers every week, good luck. Whether you're facing Tyson Alu, who's been, when he's been healthy, has one of the best first steps in the NFL, and his hand usage is so active. And then you have guys like Hayward and Tuitt who had the power factor and the quickness that you don't see in big guys like that. It's just been absolutely amazing to see Tuitt pick up right where he left off last year, whenever he probably would have outproduced Cam Hayward from a statistical standpoint if he wouldn't have got injured. So, Stephon Tuitt, you are a rising star, sir. Hopefully, we don't ever hear another word about your contract because you are well worth every penny of what they pay you when you are healthy and reeking like you are right now. Biggest disappointment. I'm going to stick home here with my selection. It was Jalen Samuels beforehand. That was the preseason one. The midseason one is Samuels himself. And it's not really because of production. I think I was kind of already forecasting this going on with McFarland and some of the younger guys like Claypool. I did not factor in the fact of how much motion we're using this year. But Jalen Samuels, every time he has touched the ball, he's just looked very sluggish. He looks very uninterested. He looks like he's lost focus. And really, outside of his special teams contributions, I'm not sure what he would bring to the table for the rest of the year. And what really bugs me more than anything, Steeler Nation, is how many snaps he eats up on certain formations of James Washington, who's really seen his snap count diminish. And even Vance McDonald and Chase Claypool, too, somewhat. If you're limiting the 3 guys like McDonald, Claypool, and Washington to get Samuels in the game, I think we need to regroup there for the second half of the season. Get Samuels off the field. I would rather see James Washington in those types because of how big of an ability he is. He's a very powerful type, run after the catch guy, downfield vertical threat. You have more options from a route running perspective, and even as a run after the catch guy than Jalen Samuels, who just doesn't look like he has the vision, and he doesn't look like he has the burst to do anything after the catch. So that's the one type irk I have in this offense, is how much we see Samuels on the field. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he goes out there and shows a better second half, but I'd rather see McDonald, I'd rather see James Washington, or even Chase Claypool on more of them formations than Jalen Samuels. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Rookie of the Year. My preseason Rookie of the Year selection was Chase Claypool. My midseason, now, this was a lot harder than what a lot of people may think. I am going with my preseason pick of Chase Claypool, but I do want to mention Kevin Dotson. and Alex Highsmith. Both of these guys are playing at an outstanding level for a rookie class that had little to no, preseason preparation, OTAs, none of that. And these guys have been high-quality snaps when they've been pressed into duty. Highsmith is eating up all of Denny's snaps on defense because of how well he's played. And Dotson has been, I don't want to say the equivalent of DeCastro because DeCastro is an all-pro player, but there hasn't been much of a letdown when he's been pressed into action. And that says a lot going forward with the depth of this class and how much we've been able to get production out of the entirety. So Kevin Colbert, I think this Rookie of the Year should go to you. But Chase Claypool, let's just, take a little, like a minute to just step back and realize the amount of production this guy's had in 8 games. He's had 7 touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns, 2 of them rushing, which has been outstanding when he's been used on the end arounds. And he leads all NFL rookies in touchdowns. And he's 3rd in the NFL. He's tied for 3rd in total touchdowns here. So as a Steelers offense, they would not be as dynamic without this guy. The sky is the limit for him. I think with Juju there to help, kind of keep his head leveled here with some of the early success, he can kind of equate it to him and the success and production he was able to put forward. And they're basically roommates. I don't want to say roommates, but they're not very far away tenant-wise of where they live. So these guys, Chase Claypool is an absolute monster. He reminds me of one of the players from the Monstars on Space Jam. He's just awesome at what he is on the field. I can't wait to see what we see the rest of the year. But he is our Rookie of the Year midseason award winner here. Under the radar hero. In the preseason, I selected Derek Watt. He's been very disappointing, not for production-wise, because when he has been healthy, he has been a star on special teams and also as a lead blocker. He's made some bone-crushing blocks, but he has not been able to stay healthy, which was Roosevelt Nick's problem. And it just seems like the fullback position of the Steelers the last few years have been cursed somewhat with the injury bug. But I cannot pick him here, Steeler Nation. For me, it's Vince Williams. This guy does not get enough credit for just putting his ego aside. Last year, he was basically told, hey, you're not good enough. We're signing Mark Barron. And you're also not even good enough to be a starter opposite Mark Barron, the former first-round pick. We're selecting Devin Bush because he's a better athlete than you, and his upside's through the roof. What did Vince Williams do? He shut his mouth. He went to work. He did what he was supposed to. He played special teams, and he made plays when he was called upon. Now this year he's being rewarded with it. After Mark Barron experiment basically fell flat on its face last year, opposite of Devin Bush, and the awful injury to Devin Bush this year, Vince Williams has been the best inside linebacker in the AFC North. And I know a lot of people challenged me with that with Patrick Queen. Vince Williams has been an absolute terror, and a lot of people always knock him for his pass coverage. He's not deficient, folks. He's very shrewd in the way he takes his drops. He knows where the play is going. He can feel the flow of the play, and he's great at reading and reacting with his instincts. This guy, he has 37 tackles, 26 of them being solo. And a lot of times when he's hitting you, he's not just dragging you down. He is thumping you. He brings an attitude and aggression to this defense with his leadership and that ability. He is tied for first with none other than TJ Watt. 13 tackles for loss. 13 tackles for loss. He has 3 sacks, which we know how well he is at getting that A-gap blitz from his inside linebacker position. And he's also recovered a fumble. So Vince Williams, you're my selection for under the radar hero. You don't get enough kudos. I love the way you play. You bring that little bit of old school tenacity to a football field. I always can tell where you're at in the field because you can hear the hats and the pads popping. So keep it happening. I hope to see big stats by the end of the year, buddy. You are a midseason under the radar hero. Now we're going to get to the final one here. It is team MVP. And in the preseason, I went back and forth on this one. It was between Big Ben Roethlisberger and TJ Watt. I went with Big Ben in the preseason, basically for the fact of the entirety of the team and the ingredients of the way they win is very similar to last year's team. They play great defense. They try not to turn the ball over. We were an 8-8 team last year. With Big Ben, you see the difference in a starting and franchise caliber quarterback with an amazing defense. But I simply cannot go, just because the production isn't there from an entirety standpoint, I think importantness to the team, yes, you can make that case that Big Ben is the most important player on the Steeler football team, that if we lose him, I'm not sure we'd be able to have the same type impact. We wouldn't be 7-0. But I'm going with my midseason MVP is TJ Watt. TJ Watt, and I will stand by this. I made the comments in the preseason. I think he could break the all-time sack record in a single season. I still hold by that. He has a half season yet, and he's facing a very beat-up Dallas Cowboys defense this week. He might be able to get 3 or 4 sacks just tomorrow against either Terrence Steele or I think it's Cam Fleming now who's playing left tackle. He plays mostly left outside linebacker, but you never know. They flip-flop guys a good bit based on matchups. So he might get 3 or 4. He's only, I believe it's 3 sacks behind right now, or 2.5. Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald, who have 9. He is tied for third in sacks at 6.5. He has 20 solo tackles, 25 complete tackles or combined tackles. He is first. He's tied first with Vince Williams in tackles for loss at 13, which just speaks to his penetrating ability, not only on pass downs, but this guy's ability to just wreck plays with his ability to get off the ball. I have not seen a guy with that quick instincts off the ball since Von Miller in his prime. So he has 3 pass defense as well and an amazing interception that he made later on, early on the season. TJ Watt, I am absolutely enjoying every single snap I see of you on defense. It just, every time I see you play, it just seems like big things are in store. There's going to be a breathtaking play happen, and you really set the table for some of the other guys to wreak havoc on this defense, whether it's Vince Williams coming down from the A-gap, whether it's Cam Hayward and Tuitt, who are getting that interior pressure, and you're just running by guys on the outside. Or you're letting a one-on-one matchup for Bud Dupree to expose, and he's done that quite well. And that's not a knock on Dupree. It's just you win your matchups you can, and he's also made lots of plays in the run defense, as we've seen. So TJ Watt, you're really the soul and the attitude to this defense with Cam Hayward. And I can't give it to Big Ben because his production ain't there like yours is, TJ. So TJ Watt, you are my midseason MVP of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, Steeler Nations, there it is. That's the sermon portion of our episode here on episode 16. As I said before, I appreciate having you here. We're going to go ahead and dive into the last portion of the sermon here, and that's none other than our Week 9 preview. We know that this game isn't a 1 o'clock game, which seems like the majority of what our games have been this year. Tomorrow, November the 8th at 4:25 p.m., we have the Pittsburgh Steelers will be traveling to Dallas and play in AT&T Stadium tomorrow. I want to highlight our injury report here. There's been some updates here in a little bit before that I jumped on, so I'm going to try to give you the most current and up-to-date info that I have to this point. And we're going to jump into the Steelers right away here. So Tyson Alu, which by all accounts was given a sprained MCL diagnosis this week, he is out this week with that knee injury. He'll probably be out for, I'm saying, at least 2 more, maybe 1 to 3 weeks in total. So you might not see him till like week 11, which it is what it is. Hopefully Bugs is able to step up and we can see some production out of these younger guys. Henry Mondeau, maybe Carlos Davis gets a hat. Maybe Calvin Taylor will maybe be elevated from the practice squad. Mike Hilton, he practiced limited this week, a couple days. I think they're really trying to just, I don't want to say look past the Cowboys, but hope to give him 1 extra week's worth of rest. He is listed as doubtful in the final injury report with that shoulder injury. I think they're trying to set him up for that late season surge and be as healthy as possible with the injury that he faced there. And Cam Sutton has been playing high-quality ball in his absence. So Mike Hilton is most likely going to be out. He's listed as doubtful. Then we also have Stephon Wisniewski, who is activated off the injured reserve list this week with that pectoral injury. He is listed as doubtful this week, most likely being out as well. Another week, another inactive type game. Just maybe give him another breather to hopefully give him 1 more week of being healthy here. Also, a late edition on Friday, and this one, especially this year due to the pandemic, you always got to take it with a grain of salt, and that was Vance McDonald was added with an illness. By all accounts and the information that I've seen on Twitter and a couple of sources I usually try to reference here, he was traveling with the team to Dallas, so as long as all the pre-game diagnosis and testing come back clear, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be able to play unless they simply want to give him a break and give him a week to straighten things out. But Vance McDonald, I would list him more as a game time decision, likely more than anything here. Also, Jim Wexell just broke some news as well on Twitter. Always got to tip the cap to him. He's one of the greatest reporters in the Steelers hierarchy out here in Pittsburgh. The Steelers waived Stephon Wisniewski and Trey Edmonds in order to elevate Avery Williamson and Jaron Elliott to the 53-man roster. So Stephon Wisniewski must be going away. Maybe they try to sign him back after this week with that injury. Maybe they waived him with a injury designation there. So they get Avery Williamson and Jaron Elliott to the 53-man, and they also have released Trey Edmonds. They also elevated Antoine Brooks, our 6th-round pick from Maryland, and signed DeMarcus Christmas, who they brought in for a workout this week, to the practice squad. He is a Florida State defensive tackle from 2 years ago, I believe. Last year or the year before, from Florida State. Big, square-bodied, nose tackle type, very powerful build. DeMarcus Christmas to their practice squad. So, Jim, thank you for the heads up on that. Definitely want to give you credit for that as well. So, Stephon Wisniewski has been waived, probably with an injury designation, and maybe see him sign back at a later portion here. Now, let's get to the Cowboys portion. Their punter is out. So, hopefully, we see what their plan is there with an abdominal injury. I'm not sure if they have a punter on their practice squad or not. They probably likely do. This is the big one, Steeler Nation. Ezekiel Elliott is listed as questionable with a hamstring injury. He was limited all week with that injury. By all accounts, they're already talking about elevating Sewu Olanolua, who is a guy I loved in the pre-draft process here. Big back, physical. They listed him more as a fullback. I loved him as a running back at TCU. I think he just needed an opportunity. They're probably going to likely lean on Tony Pollard a lot. Even if Zeke is healthy and active, they might only give him a small dose of snaps because Dallas Cowboys are set up for their bye week the following week here. So even though their record does not reflect it, due to the NFC East being so, how do I want to put this nicely, not good, they still have an outside shot at being the winner of that division. So they really got to think long-term here and big picture, even though they're on their 3rd or 4th string quarterback. Their offensive line is in rags and tags, but Ezekiel Elliott with that hamstring injury, they say pre-game he's going to have a workout and test it, but I am not so sure we're going to see Zeke Elliott on the field tomorrow. I think the big picture look out. I think they're thinking, give him 2 weeks with this layoff and then the bye week to set them up for that late season if they're still in it to really get some momentum going downhill. So Zeke Elliott, I have a feeling we're not going to see him. If so, it's going to be limited, and you're really going to see a lot of exposure to Tony Pollard, which don't sleep on him because he was a wide receiver, running back, hybrid type player at Memphis. Could catch the ball a lot. Was very impressed with him down at the Senior Bowl last year. So then they also list one of my picks for comeback player of the year, Aldon Smith, who's been dominant on that defense, which is hard to say because that defense is terrible, but he has been the one bright spot coming back from so many years of suspension and his life being just in a shambles. So Aldon Smith is questionable with a knee injury. I think he'll be good to go. Also, Joe Thomas, who's a stalwart on special teams and gets some snaps on defense. He has a wrist injury and is also questionable. I think he'll be good to go as well. So you're really looking at 2 players there, and the impact that they're going to have. The punter is out, and most likely we're probably not going to be seeing Ezekiel Elliott. So this is setting itself up. We already know Andy Dalton as well, since we're talking Cowboys injury report, was placed on the COVID-19 injured reserve list. He is out for this week. The talk, and we'll get into this in our 3 stories as I transition here, is who will be under center for the Cowboys. That's our first storyline. And all week, last week it was Ben DiNucci, Pine Richland's own Pittsburgh alum here, that transferred to James Madison. He was a selection by the Cowboys this past year. He was not very impressive last week. I think the Cowboys know they still have a outside chance at maybe still fighting for the division. So they're turning to either Garrett Gilbert or Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush was one of the main backups for Dak Prescott and Tony Romo late in his career. He was actually on the Giants practice squad. They brought him back to their own after the Giants released him off their practice squad. And I heard just recently this morning that they held their cards very close to the vest all week, that Garrett Gilbert actually was the one that got the majority of the snaps, which for me, being one of the guys that loved covering the AAF Orlando Apollos, that was my team. I love the AAF and all those developmental leagues. This guy would have probably been the MVP of the AAF. That's how great of a passer he was in that league. A lot of weapons there. He went to SMU, played some good ball down there, and I'm just really impressed with Garrett Gilbert. I'm not so sure it's going to translate to, the number 1 or number 2 total defense in the NFL. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to put up that kind of production, especially if he don't have Ezekiel Elliott behind him. But we got to take him serious, folks. The Dallas Cowboys' best chance at beating the Steelers is with Garrett Gilbert under center. Not Ben DiNucci, not Cooper Rush. Garrett Gilbert. He has good arm strength. He can make every throw needed. He can throw with anticipation. He has good feel for the pocket. And he knows with this beat-up offensive line, which is basically going to be the equivalent, outside of Zach Martin, don't want to throw him under the bus, the All-Pro, of an AAF offensive lineman, or offensive line unit. So don't sleep on them. The one area the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of talent is wide receiver. What's the one area the Pittsburgh Steelers struggled before the last few games? Our cornerbacks. And it was Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson, more than anything, struggled. He has tightened it up the last 2 weeks or so. But CeeDee Lamb has been very impressive this year with his production from the receivers. Michael Gallup is a big-time target, especially down the field. And Amari Cooper is one of the best route runners, and he has the speed element to burn you down the field. So you cannot sleep on this. Garrett Gilbert can throw the ball down the field. Not so sure they're going to be able to, play off a play action if they don't have Ezekiel Elliott, So Garrett Gilbert, former AAF quarterback for the Orlando Apollos, is most likely going to be their quarterback. So look for that. If we have any AAF fans here, make sure that you're checking out this game and bookmark it. He might be getting crushed by my Steelers defense, but it is going to be nice just to see a little bit of production from one of the stars of that league get a chance here. So that's what they were all about, right? One of our other stories here. Can the Steelers remain 8-0, or will they overlook this beat-up and lowly Cowboys team? I forget where the stat was, but the Steelers don't always, play their best game after performances against their division rivals, the Baltimore Ravens. And it was turnabout that as well with Baltimore Ravens. Their record is kind of so-so after the matchups with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you're looking at picking games this week, you really want to watch this Steeler game as well as the game with Baltimore this week, because the way the bumps and bruises and that slobber knocker we just had last week, it takes its toll not only for the next day or 2 days after, but the next 5 to 7 days. And you might not have the energy and the strength you had before that matchup. So I hope this team is tuned in. I hope they don't, just get into a lull and think, this team don't have Dak Prescott. They might not have Ezekiel Elliott. They are still paid NFL players. Any team can beat any team any week, and that's what these guys get paid for. So Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, for as much kudos as I gave you before, I hope you have your guys focused. I hope you have them ready. And I hope that you show up and play 4 quarters in Dallas as we are on the road this week. But just some history here with the Steelers if they go 8-0. 2 teams in the 87-year history of the Pittsburgh Steelers have managed to remain unscathed through 7 games. Pittsburgh's 2020 squad and their 1978 Super Bowl winning team started 8-0 before they suffered their first defeat. The 78 Steelers won that year's Super Bowl, and this year's team is on the same track to go that way. Also, since the start of the Super Bowl era, 40 teams, which include this year's team, have won at least 7 games before losing their first game, according to StatHead. Out of those teams, 19 have reached the Super Bowl, with 10 teams ending their year hoisting that Vince Lombardi trophy. Since the 1972 Dolphins' perfect season, the last team to lose each season has won the Super Bowl 12 times. So, knock on wood, I don't want to talk about it too much. I don't want to jinx us. So I just wanted to throw it out there for you guys that wanted the info. Some great info right there. So, our last storyline that we got to look at here, and I kind of already referenced it with the quarterback issue the Cowboys are facing. It is, how many sacks will this defense get on the Cowboys mash unit up front? This matchup presents another clear-cut advantage to the Steelers' defense. Watt ranks 4th in the NFL at 6.5 sacks. Bud Dupree and Stephon Tuitt are tied with 6. Is it 6? Yeah, 6 sacks. And they're also 7th in the NFL. So we have some talent up front. Hopefully Cam Hayward is healthy enough to continually, push the pocket. Also coming into Week 9, the Steelers rank 1st in sacks in the NFL and sacks to opposing quarterbacks per game at 4.3. So let's keep boosting them numbers. Let's get to about 5 sacks per game, and let's get it to about 35 or 37 at the end of this one, because it is a distinct advantage. Our pass rush should be wreaking havoc against the Cowboys. Now, this offensive coach, Mike McCarthy, speed the ball out, make some quick in-breaking routes to get the ball out quicker. We might see. But you don't have that option of the play action or relying on your franchise running back. If so, he's still not going to be 100%. Jay, I like what you said. I think 5 sacks. I'm thinking 7. That's what I like. Number 7, Big Ben 7. 7's my favorite number, so that's what I'm going for there. Also, big shout out to Rob Graphics. Got to throw this out there as well. I already pitched it. 24/7 Sports, that Next Man Up article, or the Tale of the Tape article, excuse me. Rob, my man, did me a graphic for on the front of it, so you got to go check it out. It was sick work. So he does the best work in any graphics area around. So if you need anything done, go look him up. You will not be disappointed, especially this Christmas time. So we're going to transition now to the 3 matchups to watch this week. The first one is Isaiah Buggs at nose tackle with Alu being out versus Tyler Biadasz, however you want to pronounce it. Former Wisconsin center there, who was pre-season last year in the draft process, was one of the most hyped interior offensive linemen. Fell to, I believe it was the 4th or 5th round they got him. He has looked better in recent weeks with more experience he's had, but I think he can be exposed here at the center position. And with a 3rd-string quarterback and a young center, if we're able to get pressure initially right there into the face of the quarterback, I think, not only on the pass rush front, but also in run defense, if you can shed him quickly and get in the backfield, it's going to be a long game for the Dallas Cowboys. Second one up here, Vince Williams, the inside linebacker, who I've already gave merits to, under the radar hero of the preseason, versus the running backs. Tony Pollard, if it's going to be you. We might see Sewu Olonilua, who I said I really like. Vince Williams is going to need to have a big game corralling the inside type running system here. And Vince Williams, if it's Tony Pollard running the ball, he has very good speed, so both him and Spillane are going to have to pick their pursuit angles wisely. Finally, we're going to do Chuks Okorafor at right tackle against Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith is kind of getting flipped and moved all around the field here, but Chuks Okorafor is having a big-time season at right tackle since Banner went down. I think really setting the stage for him flipping sides of the ball, or sides of the line next year with Villanueva's contract up, that we see him play left tackle. He has really shut down a lot of pass rushers this year. His mirroring ability is up there. It's top-notch. Excuse me. And his footwork has been very improved. I've been very impressed with the way he's been able to anchor and steer and clear people wide of Big Ben. And you just really have not seen a lot of letdown from that side of the line of scrimmage. So Chuks Okorafor against Aldon Smith, and it's been outstanding work for him. I definitely got to give him kudos and a tip of the cap for getting his life back on straight. But let's hope Chuks shuts him down this week. Now, finally, 3 things the Steelers must do to get a W this week. Don't dismiss this team and come out and play to the level of talent that you have on this roster. We can't overlook any team. I know Andy Dalton's not there. I know Dak Prescott's not there. Ezekiel Elliott might not be there. Heck, Tyron Smith ain't there. We don't have Travis Frederick, who retired, isn't there. You have right tackle Lyle Collins isn't there. They did get Leighton Vander Esch back. Sean Lee is a shell of himself, but he's still there. Jalen Smith's still there. They still have playmakers here, folks. Alden Smith. We can't overlook any team in the NFL. They need to come out and play to their talent level, which we can already see, as I described. They have a distinct advantage over a lot of different areas in the Dallas Cowboys. So, number 2, pound Garrett Gilbert. And I don't mean let him run the ball. I mean hit him early, hit him often, and not only hit him, but get him to the ground. I want those 7 sacks. So, let's see what's going to happen here. Number 3, and this is the real killer, that any matchup always happens if we play down to their level and it's a close game. You cannot turn the ball over in stupid situations. If you're in the red zone, you settle for field goals or you get the touchdown. Do not make a bad and dumb mistake. Put the ball on the ground. You go for the touchdown or the field goal. Go for a punt. Don't be stupid just because you think you have a distinct advantage over this team. You play well-prepared, well-versed football and dominate the opponent that you have an advantage over. Now, prediction time. Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys here. My man Jay, he thinks the Steelers are going to win 52-0. I believe the over-under, I think it was last night, was like 42. But for me, I don't think we're going to completely blow them out of the water. I do think we are going to win, but I don't think we're going to shut them out. I think it's going to be some garbage time points that they come back. But I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will win 31, Dallas Cowboys 14. Pittsburgh Steelers 31, Cowboys 14. And hopefully we're 8-0 here next week when we're talking. So, that's pretty much all I got here for the sermon. I thank you guys all for tuning in every single week. I appreciate your support. Go out and follow Blitzalytics. Follow me at Steel City Sermon on Twitter for the show's Twitter here. Also myself, if you want to reach out to me, at Preacher Boy Roy. We're getting into the scouting season. If you have any questions about scouting or need an appearance on one of your podcasts, I'd love to come talk to you about that or Pittsburgh Steelers stuff. Whatever you would like to talk about. Also, if you have yet to do it, we have Christmas time coming around, folks. I'm going to keep slinging this till everybody in the nation has one. The Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia 2020. It is still on Amazon.com. You want to go out and get it. It's $35 for this big, thick book. You're not going to be disappointed with all the players that are going down with injuries. You get to know a lot of players you might not have ever heard of. If you don't want that hard copy, go get your full PDF for $15. Or if you just want to know the next week's matchup, $5 a piece at blitzalytics.com/shop. It is in the description down below. Go click on it. Also, as I said, go check out 247sports.com, Steel City Insider. Jim Wexel is the curator and the purveyor of that site. He's brought me on to do some writing for him, whether it's draft series and also some previews and inside stuff on some players here. I just had an article this week. Great turnout and views this week for that article. Tail of the tape, Robert Spillane, Avery Williamson. Go check it out. It has some very in-depth and thorough knowledge that you need to do and need to know. Go check out buyjack.com, whether it's for Blitzalytics swag that you can buy for people for your Christmas list, or you go check out my man Rob Graphics on there as well and his different stuff that you can buy off of Buyjack as well. As always, I like to end my show on an upswing. Stay humble and be a blessing.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Pittsburgh do this all the time. I've been playing them for 13 years. When you avoid the middle, they go into the middle. It's never changed.
I'm in fear for my life from the long arm of the law.